Right, now to start making the trace, you're going to need a few things. First up, some wire. I've got the 49 strand here at Fox Predator wire, 26 pound breaker strain. You're going to need some little wire cutters, a crimping tool, some crimps, two, and I prefer size 6, two size 6 semi-barbless treble hooks, a little piece of shrink tube, two crimp covers, a lighter, two pulling tools to test the trace when you've done it, and if you are like me and you like everything to be spot on, a tape measure. So I'm going to take a piece of wire, roughly about 20 inches long, and it's very important with this Fox 49 strand wire that where you're going to cut, you first burn. So we take a lighter to it, and as you can see there, it is glowing red. What this does is solidify all the fibres, and it stops it from fraying once you cut it. Just get the wire cutters on there, and that gives you a nice clean end. Then we take one of our crimp sleeves, and we pass the wire through the sleeve, just like that. And then we need to take a crimp, pass the wire through the crimp. Then we're going to take one of our hooks, pass the wire through the hook, and the wire goes back on itself, back through the crimp. You want to leave a bit of a tag end on here, just in case of any slippages, but you're crimping it down so there should be no slippages. Take your crimping tool, crimp that nice and tight. That's perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to take my crimp sleeve and just follow that up the wire. Pass my crimp into the sleeve. It's a nice tight fit. Push the hook down, just be careful because these hooks are very sharp. And there we have the first treble. Right, next job, we're going to take our second treble, and if you look down upon the hooks, I don't know if the camera will actually pick this up, but there's one hook slightly offset to the others, so that's the one that we're going to run the wire down. It's usually the one with the barb on. So I'm going to take my wire, I'm going to pass it through the eye of the hook, and then we're going to set it down the wire. Now this is important, you need to judge roughly where you want the hook. I normally find around 3.5 inches, for me works good. So I'm going to set that hook there at 3.5 inches, and what we do, we take the wire, you can see that there, and we're going to go, hold the hook, I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns around that hook there. Get the end of the wire, pass it back through the eye of the hook, just like a knotless knot. And then we're going to pull tight, just like that. And as you can see, treble is now in place. Now once the treble's in place, we then want our piece of shrink tube. I'm going to pass that down the wire, and that just locates over the treble hook like that. And then that just needs steaming over the kettle, just to shrink that tube down. Then coming up to this end, we need firstly a little crimp, another crimp sleeve. Then we're going to need another crimp. And then we need our barrel swivel. Take the trace wire, pass that back through the crimp, And I'm going to take it down to my tape measure. And my trace is going to be 10 inches long. Pull it down tight like that, slide the crimp up. I've got 10 inches. I'm going to take my crimping tool, crimp it. Just like that. Nice and tight. Find where we're going to cut. I'm going to get my lighter. Burn just there. Take that end off. Make sure you don't cut the main wire. That'd be a bit of a nightmare. And then we're just going to pull that crimp sleeve back up. Pass the crimp into the sleeve. Nice and tight. There we go. And there we have one pike trace. Now the final job on the trace is probably the most important, and that's testing it. Dead simple. Got two of these little implements here, one on the hook, one on the swivel, and you pull. Really give it some, no movement whatsoever. That is absolutely perfect. That will withstand anything. I also prefer treble hooks that aren't the super strong ones. The reason being, I want that hook to bend out before my line snaps, because if that's in the water and that's hooked on something and I'm pulling and my line snaps, I'm going to leave a baited trace in the water. So I much prefer the hook to straighten out before the line breaks. Hopefully you're never ever going to leave a trace in the water, but unfortunately it can happen. So please keep the fish as well, bear in mind. Right, next, rig storage, little rig bin. Great little piece of kit these. I've had this for 22 years, this rig bin. Pass, I hope you can see that, pass the swivel into there. And you get your trace, and you just loop it around the rig bin. And the hooks find their own way to the foam. Sorry, can't quite see that. You can see that there. And there's hook on like that. Tap. Fits inside pack of your rucksack. Fantastic. Right, I know there's obviously people who are watching this video and saying that a 10-inch trace far too short for a pike. I completely agree. But there is a reason for it. The reason being, on 99% of my fishing, I always use an uptrace. It's basically a 20-inch piece of wire as a leader, and it gives me a 30-inch overall trace. And I'll quickly run through that with you now. Okay, so this is my uptrace. You have a quick change link there. That's crimped onto the wire under a piece of sleeve, and there's a rubber buffer bead here. On this end, I've just got a crimped swivel. Now, when we start to fish, I've got a run ring that passes over the swivel first, and I can attach my lead to that, and I can run up and down the trace freely, as so. And then put a piece of shrink tube on my main line, tie my main line to the swivel, I pass a shrink tube over the swivel, over the main line, shrink that down so you get a nice fit, and then in the worst case scenario you do get a snap off, that run ring can run straight off over the swivel and the lead will be gone. There is another reason behind the uptrace, and I'll quickly show you now. The majority of my baits that I do fish, I do try to pop them up. I think a pike, it's built for attacking side on rather than bottom feeding as a carp would. So I think a bait in its face is much more presentable. So if you can imagine, if you're fishing on a margin of the canal, it's only 3 foot deep, and you've got an 18-inch trace on there, your bait's going to be almost at the surface. So with a 10-inch trace and an up trace, you see, you've got your lead here, and then you've got the 10-inch trace that I made up earlier, which would pop your dead bait up, and you're only 10-inch off the floor. In my opinion, best way to fish.